Hello everybody, it's Geekosaurus Mike, and I know it has been a long time since I've been on the YouTube. Suffice to say, I've been busy. I make no money doing any of this, so I kind of have to do other things to sort of make a living. On top of that, I've been applying to graduate schools. I've started a apprenticeship, sort of, for piano tuning and repair, and those all have taken up pretty much all of my time the past few weeks. But I've got all of the grad school paperwork sent off that I'm going to right now, so maybe I'm going to use some of this free time to work on this channel and my blog at geekosaurusmike.blogspot.com, and just other projects that I've kind of been putting on hold in favor of doing all of that stuff. I've got a couple videos sort of in the writing process. I've got a few ideas for another kind of segment. And Jamiroquai and I have Jamiroquai of jamiroquai.blogspot.com, that is, and I have been doing our podcasts again. We've been recording them weekly. Those should be going up on Spotify soon, and if I get his permission, I might be downloading them, slapping a picture on them, and putting them on my YouTube channel as well. So be sure to check those out, support him, support me. I greatly appreciate it. I'm actually really impressed that despite how little activity I've been doing lately, I've still been kind of semi-steadily been getting followers or subscribers. I always get my social media terminology mixed up, forgive me. And that's awesome. So thank you to all of those who have subscribed to me in sort of this absentee period. But what I'm here to talk about today is something that has been very prevalent in the video game industry lately. And it involves an incident between a game, the game developer, and video game journalism. And if you follow this sort of industry scene, then you probably know what I'm talking about, because it's kind of been a bit of an explosion. I haven't talked about it before now, A, because I'm busy, and B, because tempers have just been so high about it lately that it seemed like anyone who voices any opinion is just going to get part of a screaming match. So hopefully at this point, things have kind of settled down to a point that we can talk about this. And I'm not going to talk terribly much about the incident itself, because A, I don't know everything about it, and B, I don't care, which I will explain in a moment here. But the two things I want to talk about in regards to this sort of incident and the onset backlash and the backlash to the backlash are two things. One, I'd like to talk about art versus the artist. And two, I'd like to talk about what the term gamer means. So talking about art versus the artist. So for those of you who don't know the situation, essentially somebody made a video game and did some questionably moral things for reviews, and people have really gone kind of overboard in their backlash. I mean, there's some things that, just on the basis that the people involved are human beings, you shouldn't say to each other. There just aren't. I mean, if you're the kind of person who's going to, make straight up death threats to make your point seem more serious, or to make yourself seem, I don't know, cooler or whatever, then I sincerely hope you talk to somebody or get caught while you're still young and stupid before you make a mistake later that's going to have drastic effects on your actual life. But regardless of that, what I wanted to talk about, I got a message on Facebook. Anyway, what I wanted to talk about as far as art versus the artist is this sort of, this mindset that we have these days that I really can't get behind. And you see it a lot in music, you see it a lot in movies. It's probably most prevalent in music, and that's this sort of cultural mentality that the artist is almost ranked as important as the art they create. I mean, if you look at celebrity news, you look at, the fresh scandal this person's been involved in, or this band member, or this musician, or this movie star, and it seems like sometimes it even seems like the art that the person creates is secondary to sort of the celebrity aura that the person has, that the artist has, and I don't think that's correct. I think that the artist should always be very, very far and away secondary to their work. And I think that's another case with this particular game. You might say that, the game itself is not the issue here. You may be right. Like I said, I don't know the details of the situation, but I know there's been a huge backlash towards the game itself in the wake of the events that have occurred. And here's the thing that I think a lot of people have trouble with, because it's admittedly a very complex thing, and that's that the dichotomy of good and evil exists within the individual. That is to say, not everything a good person does is going to be good, and not everything a bad person does is going to be bad. That's just how human beings work. If you want a really extreme example of this, here's a piece of art by Adolf Hitler. And as we all know, he is one of the monsters of history, all that stuff. But if you look at this, do you see, bigotry and anti-Semitism and anything like that in this particular piece? Well, probably not. It's just a landscape. And you might get that idea just because you know who Hitler is in hindsight, but I mean, if you can point out a specific case of bigotry or anti-Semitism in this particular piece, please put it in the comments below, because I'd be curious to know what you think it is. Is Chris Brown a terrible human being because of his domestic abuse tendencies? Absolutely. Is he a terrible musician because of his domestic abuse tendencies? Probably not. I haven't listened to anything by him, so I don't know if he's good or not, but I mean, one thing does not strictly correlate to the other, and I understand, if you're not supporting his music because you don't want to support him and he's a terrible person, that's fine and all, but the quality of the art is not affected by the personal shortcomings of the artist, is my underlying point. Mother Teresa could put out a Norwegian metal album, but because she's Mother Teresa, that doesn't mean it's gonna be good. I think, and as far as this case goes in this game, A, I haven't played the game. B, I do not suffer from depression, I never have, and I'm not going to insult people who do by pretending I have. So I can't really tell you, even if I did play it, whether it was an accurate representation of what it's like to live with depression and go through that. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't, I don't know. But before you learn all about the controversy with the developer, play the game. And if you've already played the game and you find that it spoke to you on some level, or connected with you, or made you think or feel something that you might not have before, then regardless of what the artist did, it's successful as its own work. And I think that's something that we need to accept. I mean, we've all enjoyed movies or music or books even by artists or actors or authors. Funny how these all start with A. But anyway, who have done things that maybe we don't personally agree with, and that's fine. Like I've said, not everything a bad person does is automatically bad. Not everything a good person does is automatically good. That's just how it works. I'm sorry if I think we all wish that it was simpler, but it's not. That's just the human condition. So that's really all I have to say about the art versus artist. And like I said, I know this really isn't too much about the game itself. It's more about the impact on gaming journalism, and maybe that doesn't shock me as much because I am a journalist, is my day job. And the thing that people have a hard time understanding is that journalism or publications don't exist for the purpose of telling you the truth. Publications exist for the purpose of selling themselves. It's cynical as it may sound, publications are a business, and a business has to make money. And if a particular angle will make more money than another one, then you best bet that the publication is going to go with that angle. That's just the nature of the beast. So yeah, I mean, I've always taken video game reviews with a grain of salt for that reason alone, to be honest. But the second thing I want to talk about is what the term gamer means. And I think that that term as a whole is stupid. I think that it does so little justice to its own concept that I think it's a useless term. I think it's an empty term made by... It's a corporate definition of a group of people that may or may not actually exist. And in broadest terms, a gamer is supposed to be somebody who's passionate about video games. And as far as that goes, I guess that's fine, but imagine, if you will, if we just call a certain group of people moviegoers, and we lump them all into the same category, instead of associating them with Doritos and Mountain Dew, we associate them with like popcorn and Dr. Pepper or something, I don't know. And we just kind of lump them all into one mindset and one community, and that's preposterous, because you have cult movie fans, you have horror movie fans, drama, you have sort of like the high art fans. It's a very diverse group of people, and it's the same thing with video games. Like, I myself enjoy a wide variety of them, from like fighters to I enjoy the occasional shooter to puzzle to RTS to turn-based. But I think that it's more common for somebody to enjoy one or the other. Somebody who's going to get on Xbox Live on Call of Duty Ghosts and claim his knowledge in the biblical sense of my relations is probably not going to be the same kind of person who spends hours and hours meticulously building up an efficient empire in an RTS or a turn-based game. It's just not the same mindset. So many people play video games these days of one kind or another. Like, you go back in the day, you talk about Snake, Tetris. Those are video games just as much as like Call of Duty, God of War, dated reference, Civilization. Like those games that you associate like moms and girlfriends and grandmas, and I don't mean to use all female terminology here, there's girl gamers, I know, but like what you associate with other groups of people are just as much video games. And today, with things like Call of Duty, like League of Legends, these vastly popular games, like Flash games, iPhone games, nearly everyone, at least the vast majority of people, play video games of some kind or another. And to lump them all into a single group is preposterous and incredibly inaccurate. And the reason I bring this up is because in the situation we were talking about earlier, there was the backlash from the community, like I said, was really overboard in a lot of senses. But there was backlash to the backlash, where these journalistic publications that were sort of under attack are printing off all these articles about the death of the idea of a gamer, and why being a gamer is not a good thing anymore, and blah blah blah, all this about gamers. And I hate to tell you this, but gamers isn't a real thing. We are not, people who play video games are not one cohesive group, and to say we are is homogenized and preposterous. I guess that's all I really have to say about that, is that the term gamer is dumb, it doesn't exist, and it's trying to encompass what a really wide variety of people is into one group, based on something that, corporate America, I can't speak for corporate Europe because I don't live in Europe, that corporate America is trying to use to sort of create a demographic to advertise to. The people who make those like ridiculous threats, and the people who go overboard and do all that negative stuff that you associate with the term gamer, people who play video games have a specific word for them that you might be familiar with, and that's called jackass. And it's the same thing anyone else calls them. And there's jackasses in video games, there's jackasses in sports fans. There certainly are jackasses in sports. There's jackasses in every sort of passion that a person can have. It's just, once again, it's human nature. It's the dichotomy of good and evil within groups, and the dichotomy of good and evil within the person. So I hope you found this somewhat enlightening, or at least you found it a solid opposing argument if you disagree with me. If you disagree with me, that's fine. I mean, I'm sure there's plenty of equally valid views out there on this sort of thing. Well, Okay, maybe not equally valid in my eyes, because I've told you what I think is true, but I mean, everything has multiple arguments that can stem from it. That's just how this works. But I've got some new stuff coming down the pipeline. I'm in the writing phase. I've actually got maybe a bit of a crossover coming here soon with another Geeks of the Roundtable personality. So I hope you stay tuned for then, and I will see you next time.